Seeing no actual public, we'll go on to treasurer's report. Julie.
Good evening, everybody. I do not have an update on the homeowners, the whole home program that I mentioned last month. That's going to be a pilot program running through Capital Area Community Services. Our meeting was canceled, so I wasn't able to learn any more for you. I am having there's a get together on Thursday evening. I'm going to be meeting over at the Case Credit Union in Lansing. And I'm hoping to learn some more about that. Dog license sales started on the 1st. We're at 86 this week. I found it interesting. I know we're concerned. I think we feel like we're the only ones. Other treasurers on our listserv, there were a number of them complaining that dog licenses are down, dog licenses are down. One suggested putting a flyer out to the vets or to the local unit, so we went ahead and did that, just made up a little flyer and sent it to the vets and just asked kindly if you could post this at your counter as a reminder that taxes are, nothing, just a friendly reminder. We even put one on our counter because they might be coming in to pay taxes or do other business, and we just put one on our counter, reminder to dog licenses, and one of the reasons why we get them is because it's the law. So like I said, it's all that's maybe going on right now. Winter tax collection has started, so you would have all gotten your tax bills, and so that season is starting up. And just other than that, regular business. Any questions? Or
I did have a CACS board meeting a week ago today, and there was no mention, no update. And we have the Ingham County Treasurer and the Eaton County Treasurer both on that board. No mention of it, so.
No mention of it.
Mm-mm.
Huh, okay. And because both of them are, Eaton and Ingham and Shiawassee were the trial.
Right.
So, but.
And I didn't ask, so.
Yeah, okay. I'll learn more on Thursday.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. And
Sure.
Nothing else for Julie? All right.
Okay, thanks.
Chair first, is Commissioner, forget it.
Yep.
Yes.
We are a full committee. And that brings us to community development. Pete?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very slow month of November with 14 zoning permits and 21 building permits. They're a little lopsided again for some reason. We've been doing that. We'll have a lot of zoning permits in October and they don't build until November, so it's a little bit lopsided. Usually they're a little bit more even. As far as code enforcement, we've been a little slow on that as well because of the weather and such, but administratively we're moving along with that. We are coming up with kind of a new checklist on the way we handle those code enforcements, and so I'll be probably speaking with you just to inform you of that in January or February. And I put a handout before you folks, and if I could take some of your minutes here at the agenda, kind of walk through the equalization process. We just finished up our equalization study, which we do on an annual basis in the county. So I kind of put a equalization 101 about our study process here in a bullet point. If I may, Madam Chair, if I could just walk through some of that.
Absolutely. You know I love this stuff.
The rest of you might find it a little bit boring. So it's just, again, we do a study to essentially determine the market value that's going on in the community and translate that to the assessor. So our first step in any study is to gather all the sales in each of the classes. There's going to be residential, agricultural, commercial, and industrial. So we gather up all those sales, and then what we look for are we going to have a statistically representative or a statistically significant number of sales to represent the market. So that's item 1 there. So we either do a sales study or an appraisal study. Now the intent of both of those is to provide the local assessor, the local unit, their ratio, essentially their projected true cash value, so they have something to measure against. And this is all by state statute. dating all the way back to the 1897 General Property Tax Act. So we essentially define for them the ending number. Like, we give them a mark in order to hit, because they have to stay between 49 and 50% of market value. So their assessed value has to be within 49 to 50% of that market value. In order to determine what market value is, that's what the equalization, county equalization process is. On item 3 there, sales study is usually used in the residential class because we have enough turnover, we have enough sales. Commercial, industrial, agricultural, not that way necessarily. So in a local unit, to have something that's statistically significant, we need to have those number of sales. So with the sales study, I say here that we simply add up the sale prices and all the assessed values and divide the sum of the assessed value by the sum of the sale price. When I say simply, that's the end math, but what goes into that is the constant updating of the database for property ownership, for sales, for transfers. Are they good sales? Was it between related folks? That wouldn't be a good sale. Was it a quick claim deed? That wouldn't be a good sale either, because we don't know if there's any other interest in there. So there's this ongoing process, but when it comes down to it, if we have the numbers, we just divide this, the assessed value by the sale price. I did include under attachment 1, kind of the listing of sales, what they look like when they come to the assessor. So you can just see, the parcel ID number, the class of property, the sale date, and then we have the, the adjusted sale price and the assess. So that's.
And so just for their clarification, the assessor is a local unit of government, not the county.
Correct. The assessor is the one that ultimately determines the taxable value and how the taxes are going to be levied on a particular piece of property.
So you're saying it's the local assessor who determines the taxable value?
Absolutely.
Not anyone here at the county?
No, we're only at the equalization platform there, which has nothing to do with taxable value.
And Pete, when you say equalization, that truly means equal, right? So where that ratio under paragraph 2 or bullet point 2, that ratio being between 49 and 50% has to be there for it to go to the state.
It is statutorily required.
Yes.
We develop the end number. How the local assessor gets that number, that's on them.
You don't even want to know.
No, and I do not want to look under that hood and figure out what's going on, but.
Madam Chair, I had a question on that.
Yes.
So I'm having a little, I always try to get this right myself. So when you're doing equalization, would it be fair to say that it's like normalizing the trends across the entire county, so that this assessor over here isn't doing something crazy to this assessor over there? Or how do you just, what is the bigger picture act of equalizing? Because that's what the county does. I'm just.
Right. We equalize is a tough term because it sounds like we're trying to make everybody equal. We're not trying to make everybody's numbers equal. We're trying to make their base equal, so that they're all essentially starting from a number that's derived on more of a regional scale. Now, the state will also, quote unquote, equalize as well, and they will make sure at the end of March Board of Review that all counties fall between that 49 and 50 ratio as well. And again, that's mandated state statute. We don't differ from.
But when you do these appraisals, this does not result. Your actions don't result in anyone's values changing.
Not a specific one. I am just trying to establish what the market value is and compare that market value to what the assessor had in the prior year. And so when we go through this, the appraisal process, the sale one is great. If we have enough sales, we go through that process. It's easy math at the end of the hard work. The appraisal study is the ones that do not have enough sales, and we have to go ahead and develop an appraisal study for that, which then under item 5 here, we conduct a field appraisal on each property that's sold. So we will go out there and we'll look at the use of the structures of the property, the structure. We'll look at the construction quality, the condition of physical improvements, and we'll come up with an estimated value of those improvements. We don't make that stuff up. there's a nationwide entity called Marshall Swift that gives us construction values. If it's a steel frame structure, it's gonna be this much, it's gonna be that. So we go ahead and we essentially look at the structure, come up with a value based on all those variables. Then we subtract that value from the structure, from the sale price. When you take out the structure and all the improvements from the sale price, that must be what the land value is. Now that we have land value, so we go through that process, and I wish I had this better done for you folks, but there's a chart in here under attachment 3 that shows you a sketch of the little ice cream shop right around the corner here on the highway. And so you can see where we look at the structures.
Show us what you're looking at. Okay.
Yes, this little sketch drawing here. So you can see and this is not one of the big ones, I didn't want to overcomplicate, but you can imagine if we go out to Delaney Road on some of the big industrial properties, you know, we're looking at Class D wood construction, we're looking at security cams on there, we're looking at lighting, what type of lighting is, and all that Marshall Swift data is in our system. And so we apply it in there and it gives us the structure value. And so, you know, even concrete slabs, walk-in coolers, you know, everything that we can derive on the site. We do send this out to the assessors on December 1st. And we say, what do you have? And, you know, sometimes we miss something, or they say, hey, that walk-in cooler was converted to something else. Then we change that between now and December 31st. Pardon me. The attachment 4, again, my apologies for the, you see this funky little graph? That has been developed over, 16 years of doing this now. I will put this up against anybody for determining land value in commercial industrial. It is essentially a trend analysis that uses point sales and then uses the mean of point sales and such. So this is defensible. This shows that we've done a market analysis. This shows that we come up with a land value that's appropriate. So with that being said, we take everything we learned, what the land value is, and we divide it up into neighborhoods. Land value in the middle of City of Owasso is going to be under our urban center, and it's going to have a different land value than a property that's off of 52 that happened to be commercial for 40 years. So we divide those up in the neighborhoods. Then it gets really complicated. This next chart is called an ECF analysis. ECF analysis is when we take our land value, we go out to sample properties that did not sell, and we do the same thing. We look at the use, the construction, everything, and we come up with the value on the structure. We apply our land value, and then we feed it back into our system, and the difference between the sale price minus land value tells us how much the construction value on a regional market should go up. We know that the same construction of a property in downtown Grand Rapids is going to be valued differently in downtown Munising up in the UP. It's going to be, but it's the same structure. It's built the same. It's the same age. It can't be all land value because most likely you're going to have a little more land up in the UP. You're going to have less land in Grand Rapids. There needs to be something there that accounts for that difference, and that's called the economic condition factor. So we go through all of this with the state over our shoulder, watching us, reviewing our stuff, and then on December 1st, same as the assessor, we give them everything, and they audit us. So it all comes down to is that we develop a ratio that the assessor is going to take into March Board of Review. They're going to take into sending out their assessment notices. They determine all the uncappings. They determine the absolute value. All we need to see falls between 49 and 50.
So in addition to that, let's talk about the factors set by the state.
Well, the state can factor the county.
Would you mean the inflation multiplier?
Oh,
That's, yes,
okay.
inflation.
The inflation multiplier. So if the assessor comes up to a property and they say that it used to be worth 100,000 assessed, but they decide it was $1 million assessed and it didn't sell, the taxable value will only go up by the rate of inflation. The only thing that changes that is if the assessed value falls below the taxable value. Now, this is mandated by the state based on tables. We have nothing to do with that inflation rate multiplier. We do here at the county determine the Headley rollback, but again, has nothing to do with the actual taxable value of the property.
And you want the taxable value of the property to increase because it's an asset, right? What happens when it goes the other way?
Well, when it goes the other way, the local units lose, revenue, tax
And
revenue.
the owner.
And when we decrease assessed values, or as an assessor, if assessor decreased assessed values, where the market shows, like for example, right now we're in a commercial industrial slump. So we're seeing ratios going down for commercial industrial properties, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the taxes are going to change, because if the person has held the property for a long time, they're still going to see that increase in inflation rate multiplier. So that was a difficulty back in the Great Recession because property values plummeted. However, they did not go far enough below taxable value to impact that. So you still saw increases in taxes. And
I think his question was more about the person who owns their house, and they wake up one day and it's worth a lot less money than it was before.
They lose equity. We saw this in the Great Recession too. They lose buying power. They lose lending power. They lose an asset base there that even their credit cards can be applied for. It's their credit rating. And
So essentially, it's not good for the homeowner value to go down.
Well, I think that was shown in the Great Recession. I mean, you continue to have some people look at their homes as not only a sign of prosperity, but a sign of future asset. And many of the landowners that are farmers look to the appreciable value of their land, potentially not always for agricultural use.
But the taxable value cannot be higher than the assessed value. If the assessed value drops low enough, the taxable value has to drop as well. It's when you have that gap where the assessed value comes down, the taxable value can actually still go up. That's one of the odd things about Headley.
Yeah, we only had one instance since I've been involved with this that there was actually a decrease in taxable value, and that was about 3 years after the Great Recession.
So I think it's important too, when we talk about that inflation multiplier, that's applied across the state.
Absolutely.
Every county, and I believe last year it was 3.1, and then it capped at that 5% for the preceding 2 years. So
right.
we've seen 13.1% over the last 3 years across the entire state of Michigan.
Mhm.
With that, I mean, that's not anything that is local to this county.
Correct. The first year that it hit the cap, the inflation rate should have been 7.9%. So without that cap, people would have saw their taxable value go up 7.9%.
We'll see their taxes go up
They're
as well, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the other side of the pocketbook, is that's the whole point of Proposal A, is to put a band on this thing to prevent runaway up or down, I would imagine.
Even at that 5%, like I said, so
It's a lot of money at 5%, but at 10 or
13.1,
15% one year.
Exactly. Yes.
In Tennessee, the local unit will have a budget hearing meeting, and they will come up with what they need for the next year. Then the assessor goes out and spreads that. So they could see 10, 20% increases in a given year of their taxes. So we are somewhat insulated or isolated or whatever, protected as an individual homeowner, Proposition A.
But in all of this, it sounds to me like the bottom line is, and I don't pretend to understand everything you've said.
No.
The interrelation of the assessor, the equalization of the state, and et cetera. We have no control. That is, this board, our administration, the county, with what the taxes are gonna be, we don't have any control. It's all done by formulas and so on, correct?
Absolutely.
We have no influence. This is what we're gonna get, and that's what we get.
Yep, we maintain what we do to the highest standards, so that when you folks are doing your final acceptance of everything, that it's good. We have the state looking over our shoulder, ensuring the studies are good, There's no anomalies that would not be caught before any action that you take, concerning our office. And right now, we're in that gray area of time where the assessors are commenting back to us and we are making changes, and we'll be making those changes up till probably a couple days after Christmas to make sure we've heard the local unit's interest as well.
Great. Any questions on this fascinating topic? Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you. We appreciate
Well,
that.
as you read through this, give me a holler, and, if you have any particular questions.
Thank you. All right, going into our first agenda item, I would look for a motion to authorize the 2025 end-of-year budget adjustments as presented and authorize the county administrator to make any needed additional end-of-year budget adjustments to close out the 2025 budget.
Support.
Well, I need a motion. So is that a
I'll
motion?
make the motion.
I'll support that.
Moved and supported. Dr. Butts.
So every year, this budget adjustment at the end of 2025, at the end of fiscal year is different than what we do at the other one. Usually you do them quarterly, and as you get to the end of the year, you have to do end of year adjustments. That will take us through December 31st. As you can tell, this is December 8th, so you will not have those adjustments. What this is so that I can make the adjustments and then bring it back to you in January or February, depending on the total of time it takes to close everything out, make the adjustments and present it, so you don't have to meet around December 31st or January 1st to approve the end of year budget adjustments. They're ones into the future, so they're unknown at this time, but it will balance to zero. And some of the things that happens is you take some, for example, if there's extra savings in a salary line item, you move it to a spot where that there is not enough money to move it around. It's part of the budgeting process to equalize it out so everything balances to zero.
All right, any further questions on that?
If I could just comment.
Yes.
So what you're saying about these is that budgets are ultimately estimates. They're often very good estimates, and they are bumpers for people who spend the money to try to stay within this, but sometimes stuff happens. And obviously, you're not gonna refuse to pay somebody if they go a little over on the salary, but maybe we went a little, and it's the same money, it just, it's rationalizing the budget. These are all fairly standard things we do.
That is correct. And this is part of the standard ordinary course of business. So I'll give you a prime example, fuel costs. So fuel costs are volatile. They go up, they change. How many times in a week do you see the price of fuel change? We have an entire fleet of vehicles, whether it's in the sheriff's department or one of the other departments that has vehicles, buildings and grounds. Towards the end of the year, we have to adjust it. And then during the budgeting cycle, if you've looked at the columns between projected and actual and in the budgets, you will see what we project the budget to be versus what it actually is. And those go into our predictive analytics to determine the budget for the next year.
Makes sense.
All right, thank you. Nothing further, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed the same, and we'll see that Wednesday. I would look for a motion to approve the 2026 budget resolution number 25-12-19 and adopt the 2026 budget as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So briefly, I'll go over the presentation I went over last month. Our budget, general fund revenue is about $23 million, which is up $1 million from last year, and our expenses match our budgeted amount. They equal zero. Our special revenue accounts have gone up from 66 million to 70 million, and our expenses are less to 69 million. The total then is 94 million and 92 in expenses, which is up from 88 and 87 million from the previous year. If you remove the road commission, Pleasant View, and the airport, our total for special revenue funds is 16 million, which of that 70 is quite a bit that's not under our direct control. So of that, we have a few more expenses than revenue for the health department and MSU extension, and they're using some of their fund balance they're saving to make up that difference. And that's mainly because of cuts that have happened in programs overall. And as I said last time, the increase in revenue of $1 million is 491,000 of it is taxable value increases, even though the value of property has gone up, the amount that you tax has gone down. And then we have received $134,000 in state grants, $90,000 in investment revenue, and then other funds and resources of 272, which includes interest, fees, the MGT payments to the departments from other departments that receive specialized revenue or from the special revenue funds. And you'll notice the road commission has gone up, and part of that, the large increase for them is because they receive more money from the state for the fixing the roads project. But our overall taxable value that we levy has gone down to 1/100th of a mil.
All right, thank you, and thank you for the hard work. The finance office, the entire administration office puts a lot of work into this budget, as we all know, and it is much appreciated. So with that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same, and that will move forward. I would look for a motion to approve resolution number 25-12-20 for appointments to county advisory committees as recommended by the board chair.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So every year there are a set of general committees for the county, and those appointments come up on a rotating cycle depending on the bylaws of the board. Some are 6 years, some are 4 years, some are a year. Based on that, you received all of the letters. Most of them are just reappointments of people who have served on them for years and years. We did have a couple of newcomers to fill other positions. We still have a few openings. Before I got here, we did them individually, but now we're adopting them in a total as a resolution. If there's any you disagree with, you can remove them individually and approve the rest of the resolution.
All right, well, I have reviewed them, and I certainly concur with the board chair's recommendations.
So
Any,
do I.
any questions or?
No.
No? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed the same, and we will see that again on Wednesday. I would look for a motion to approve the holiday schedule and Board of Commissioners meeting schedule as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So every year you guys adopt the holiday schedule and your board schedule. The holiday schedule affects all employees. The board schedule is essentially the board meetings. We are going to try to move this ahead to do it in October or November next year because things are getting scheduled faster and faster into the new year. And most of those are pretty static dates, but they'll give us certainty.
Yeah, I've been writing in my 2026 planner for, it feels like a month or two. So, yeah, doing it a little earlier might be good. So, all right.
And just note, there's one date in 2027 scheduled. The first,
I don't have my 2027 planner.
Yeah, New Year's.
2 years.
Oh, all right.
You think we can get away with that? It's not gonna change.
I
Think it'll be the same?
I think the
Right.
date should be the same.
Okay,
Shouldn't be a problem.
thank you. You know,
Should be.
should be. Well, you know.
It may change.
All right, with that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed the same, and that moves forward. I would look for a motion to approve the annual renewal with Zix Archive in an amount not to exceed $11,029.66.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
This is part of our security software on our email. You probably noticed at the bottom it says scan by Zix. It just scans all of the incoming attachments to make sure that there are no viruses, nothing's embedded, disabling links that are in our, that come in as an email that are potentially threatening. It's gone up $721 this year. Went up $849 the year before that. All told though, I think it does save us quite a bit on cyber related issues.
I'm assuming that's part of requirements for some of our cyber insurance and also IT requirements. This is not an optional thing, I assume.
Yeah, most of the things that we're doing when it comes to IT, because we do not have excessive funds to spend on gadgets and lumpy things and the best, are usually just make sure we keep the minimums to be in compliance with insurance requirements, state regulatory requirements, federal requirements, because financial transactions have to be secure, personnel information has to be secure. We do not want to be in breach of that.
It filters out a lot of
Yeah.
harmful junk.
It does.
Mhm.
All right, any further questions from that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed the same, and it moves forward. I would look for a motion to approve the purchase of 155 Microsoft Office Business licenses not to exceed $37,306.95.
So moved.
Moved and supported.
So our current version of Microsoft Suite that we have is no longer going to be supported, which will put us out of compliance with rules and regulations about security. So to have the come into compliance, we need the new version. We have gone through and looked at who needs the version. We have 155 employees that need the suite.
And you did go through department by department and make sure that people that,
Painstakingly.
yes, I thought I recalled that.
And is this a contract or a one-time purchase?
This will be supported for several years. It's a one-time purchase that will, it's in there. It will be, we will keep it until the end of its support life, which will be several years.
Okay.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed the same. It carries forward. We are on page 2 now of our agenda. I would look for a motion to accept the tentative wage reopener agreement between AFSCME and Shiawassee County for fiscal year 2026.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So we met with the AFSCME employees and discussed their wage reopener. Their contract still has another year on it. And we agreed to a 2% wage increase, which is what the board of commissioners had budgeted for this year. And I would recommend that we approve it.
All right. Any questions or
No.
comments? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed the same. It carries. I would look for a motion to approve the Shiawassee County CDBG procurement policy to comply with grant requirements.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So as you know, we're in the final steps of receiving several grants from the state. They came back and said that they wanted to see a specific policy to comply with the 2 CFR of the Federal Registry. And we don't do a lot of federal things, so we didn't really have a policy directed to it. This will only apply to the CDBG grants and purchases made under that program. That's a contingency of getting the money.
And what does that stand for again?
Community block building grants.
Okay.
Community development block
Community
grant.
development block grants.
Okay. All right. Anything further on that?
I had to look it up too.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed the same. I would look for a motion to approve the contract for medical examiner services with Sparrow Hospital Association, subject to revisions by county legal counsel.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So as you know, we did have an extension with this for 6 months so that we could get on the same cycle as everyone else, but also so that it would align with our fiscal year, and we held it the same. However, the costs are going up because of changes in regulations and licensing at the state level, and so our price is going to go from $205 to $250. And as you can see, I outlined all the things that happened in 2024 that they handled and dealt with in the previous report. We have negotiated a contract. Eric and myself have worked on it. We still have one area related to the insurance that we're ironing out, but this does need to be into effect on January 1. And so with your permission, we ask that you approve it, subject to final revisions by Eric and myself to iron out this last provision of insurance coverage, related to how much insurance they have to have and how much insurance we have to have as part of our MMR coverage.
I will say that, you know, on this, and having a fair amount of experience in dealing with medical examiner issues in other counties, I've heard nothing from this department, which is a good thing. I should never have to deal with what they're dealing with. I hear nothing bad. You're associated with a large professional organization, which is a good thing at this price, and you're getting basically trouble-free service from these people and have been for a while. The other thing is the increases during the life of this contract are capped, I believe, at 4%, which at this point is a gift for professional services. It's so
A lot of bang for the buck.
I think so. Just to not, I mean, to not have, you've spent, in the last 4 years, you may have spent 20 minutes talking about the medical examiner. That's worth every dime that you're spending here, just to have them take care of it. And because when it goes bad, you have people who have lost their loved ones and they're not getting good services from the medical examiner. And those are conversations that you do not want to be having with voters in this county. And so you're not having those right now. It's being taken care of.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I know when we looked at this 6 months ago, I thought, how much do they actually do? I was amazed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would never have thought the numbers were as high as they are.
Yep.
So.
There's counties where the sheriff gets involved in stuff and takes up their time doing it. It can be a real nightmare, and you have a good solution here.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the medical examiner is one of the departments that's under my direct supervision. So, and we've worked very well together.
You're right, and we don't ever hear anything.
No.
All I ever hear about is community development.
Right.
Sorry, Pete. but-
Sorry, Pete. Yeah.
So, all right. Anything further on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. And that brings us to public comment. I don't think we gained any public, so we are adjourned. Thank you.